All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the REDX podcast. My name is Andrew. We've got a fantastic guest today. His name is Jim McCord out of the Northern Kentucky area. Is that right, Jim?
That's correct.
Wonderful. Well, today Jim is here to share some amazing knowledge with us. He's going to be moving a little bit out of the cold calling realm and into how to effectively send mailers specifically to old expireds from 1 to 5 years ago, right, Jim?
That's correct. And I'll tell you what, there has never been a better time to work old expires than 2021. This should be your primary for a newer agent or an agent who needs business above and beyond what they're getting from their sphere. This should be your primary target this year.
That is what we keep hearing from so many agents. So I'm very glad that you're here to share with us how we can do that. Not only, avoid, a lot of agents are uncomfortable cold calling, or maybe they're just tired of it. And mailers is a good way, maybe on top of cold calling, in addition to cold calling, that we can stand out to old expireds. Jim has an excellent method he's going to share with us today. But before we get started, I just want to shout out to our audience, those of you joining us live on Facebook, on YouTube. Let us know that you're here. Let us know where you're from. And if you have any questions or comments for Jim, chat them in. We'll make sure to get those answered. And if you want to catch the replay, you can do that as well on our REDX podcast website, theredx.com/podcast. So, Jim, let's get started. Before we jump in, and you've got a presentation prepared for us today, right?
Correct.
Wonderful. Well, before we jump into that, let's talk a little bit more about this mailer strategy and why it's important and why it kind of helps people stand out. Just a little bit of an overview here.
Well, you'll see as we go through the slides, but to give you a little background, I've been a full-time realtor since 1993. And I generated early on, my first 5 or 10 years, my business, like a lot of realtors back then and still today, mainly by cold phone calling. That's what I did, mainly cold phone calling. Back then, we didn't have the dialers. It was actually out of the Haynes directory, old time. You guys probably don't even know what that is.
Nope.
But, that worked, and it worked very well, and I was very successful. I was rookie of the year with the company I worked with that year and continued to do that. And then as years go on, like with all realtors, you get more and more of your business from your sphere and repeat referrals. And then as you want to grow your business, well, you need to start prospecting again. And about 12 years ago now, I started doing something different. Instead of strictly cold phone calling, I started sending mailers, like you said. But instead of the mailer being about the company I was with and about Jim McCord, on the outside of the envelope, I will put the photo of the house that I'm going after. Like if this is an expired listing, they're getting all kind of phone calls from realtors. They're getting a lot of company mail. And when they get an envelope this size with a photo of their house on the front, they're blown away. So this is one example, and you'll see this is a smaller example, but same thing, photo of their house.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I love that because that makes it about them, right? I think a lot of real estate agents make their advertising, their mailers about themselves, right? Me, let me show you what I can do. And this makes it about them. And there's also kind of a little bit of mystery behind it, right? Why am I getting an envelope with a picture of my house on it?
Exactly.
We're inclined to open it, right?
So yeah, most people get between 2 and 10 pieces of mail a day. That's the average. And if their mailbox is out on the street, like most are, they're fingering their mail as they're walking back, and they see something like this, just like you said, it's like, oh my God, I wonder who sent me that, what that's all about. So they're going to open that. When they open that, is a heavy stock card, again with a photo of their house. And on this one, you put whatever wording you want: charming home, great location. And then on the inside is all your information, the information for the realtor.
Right.
And then on the back. So it still has your information on there, but the first thing they see is about their house. And that's why it works. And it really, really, really works well.
Well, I love that. And it's even a little bit different than some of those where they try to do like a fake handwritten style, or some of those other mailers, which I think are in your slides. So I won't get to that too soon. But yeah, I love it. I think this is going to be a great strategy to teach our agents today. So if you're ready, Jim, let's go ahead and jump into your presentation.
Yes.
Click on over
absolutely.
there. I'll get it pulled up on screen, and we'll talk about it.
Okay. All right, you've got it up on the screen there.
I've got it up there for you. Yep.
Super. So, and this is kind of a slight change, for the first 11 or 12 years that I used the system, most expires that I would go after were the ones that expired yesterday, last night.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes I'd go after, if there weren't enough of those, I would go after expires that expired over the past year. And now what's happened, and the market has changed so much in 2020 and 2021, that there's not many expires in all these markets that expire every day.
Right.
And the ones that are expiring, the very few that are, there is something wrong with them. You probably don't want to go after those. There's either something wrong, or they're so drastically overpriced they're not going to sell.
Right.
So what's happened, and because of COVID and the market changes and the shortage of supply and the high demand, you go back 1 to 5 years, and you can go on to the next slide if you like. You go back 1 to 5 years, and what happens is,
Jim, you got to go to the next slide on your end there.
oh, okay. There we go. What happens is, those older expires, most of them that expired, more than likely they were overpriced, and that's why they didn't sell. And the market value, like we talked about, is changed dramatically in almost every market.
Yes.
And a lot of those homes that expired 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago are worth 20, 30, some maybe even 40% more, depending on the market.
Right.
But and a lot of the homeowners, they realize that their home is worth more, but they don't really realize how much.
Sure.
And there's not a lot of agents going after those 2, 3, 4, 5-year-old expireds. So if you're the one that contacts them, most of them are still going to want to sell. And when you contact them and you let them know the market has changed, their home's worth a lot more than it was when it last expired.
Sure.
They're usually very receptive to that, and they're looking forward to working with you.
Right.
So, and I'm going to talk a little bit about just kind of my theory in selling. I always say that the business we're in obviously is selling homes. That's our product: homes, multifamily, single family, lands, commercial. But the business we should be in is building relationships.
Yes, and that gets back to your comment earlier about the sphere of influence, right?
Exactly.
And when you build the relationships, whether it's expanding your sphere or nurturing your existing sphere, it's about nurturing and building relationships. I love it.
Exactly. The more people you're in touch with,
Mm-hmm.
and the more people that like you and trust you, the more business you're going to do. That's
Right.
the more referrals you're going to get. So I threw this in there just as a little cheap plug for me. I did write a book about 6 years ago. It's called Revolution in Real Estate Sales.
Very
So
nice.
yeah, there's a lot of what I'm talking about here is in there, and there's plenty more. So you can message me if you'd like that book. 70 to 80.
Is there a link to that book, Jim? Sorry to interrupt.
There's not a link. What I'd like for them to do, actually, it's the original version is on Amazon.
Okay.
But the original version I changed because I was using a different marketing company.
Gotcha.
And that version you do not, it's still on Amazon, and I just didn't replace that book yet. So message me and I'll get them that book.
Wonderful.
And anybody who would like that book, message me and I'll let them know where they can get that. But that what you see on the slide now, Andrew, 70 to 80% of newly licensed realtors leave their industry in the first 2 or 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
That statistic has been true for pretty much all 28 years that I've been licensed.
Yes.
And some years even higher than that.
Yeah.
And I am convinced it's, there's a variety of reasons, obviously. But I believe there's a couple reasons. Number one, conventional real estate marketing kind of consists of what we talked about, what most of us do, what I did, and what most realtors do to generate their business early on. And that's cold calling, door knocking, mailing, farming, and then working your sphere. I got begging your sphere on here because some managers actually tell you to call your sphere a little too often.
Right.
And that's just the problem with this. It's actually twofold. Number one, most realtors are not going to do a lot of cold calling.
Right.
And in today's world, door knocking is pretty much out. But most realtors just won't do that. And that's what it has taken to be successful, is a lot of cold calling and door knocking
Right.
for the most part, and they just won't do that. Now, secondly, too much cold calling can irritate prospects.
Yeah.
And when you have a whole lot of realtors constantly calling, that doesn't give them a good feel for our market. And it's not Jim McCord saying that. The poll that you see on the left is a poll from Gallup. They do a poll every year. And this is the most recent one. And you'll see that real estate agents are blocked off in red there. There's a 25% high trust level in real estate agents. And at the very top, they ask the public to rate all the industries that you see on the screen. Nurses, medical doctors, pharmacists are at the top, which kind of makes sense. Then school teachers, police officers. And at the bottom, members of Congress, car salespeople, telemarketers.
Right.
Yeah. So, and then we're actually at 26, 25%. It's not a good percentage.
Sure.
And then on the right side, you'll see an article from the LA Times in that first paragraph. Some 67.5% of Americans polled do not trust real estate agents.
Right.
And I truly believe a lot of that is because of the way we market.
Sure.
And that's why, I like to share and I did that same marketing for a long time, and it does still work. And I'm certainly not telling anyone not to make cold phone calls, because they work.
Right.
Don't get me wrong. But in today's market, to work the old expires and to work them in a different way really, really works. And REDX has an awesome service to get all that information. They have a few different packages. I like the middle package. And you get phone numbers, you get a lot of emails, you get their names, and you can pull those just for the last 5 years, and you're going to have all that information. And you're going to also have the tax information, because not always are they living in that home. Sometimes it's not owner occupied.
Right.
And you're going to need to mail that information and make phone calls to wherever the tax bill is going. So that's where REDX comes in, rather than you doing a whole lot of research. You use REDX to get that information. It comes very easy. And then here's my suggestion. We talked earlier, you said that I do mailers, and I share some of the mailers, and I share them again on some slides here coming up. But if you're only going to do mailers, you're going to get business, you're going to get listing appointments. But the key to sales, and not just real estate sales, I was in 2 other sales positions, 2 other industries before my 28 years in real estate. The key in sales is follow-up.
Yes.
Number one, most realtors don't prospect, which is why 70 to 80% of them are gone within 2 or 3 years.
Right.
And then of the ones who do prospect, most of them are not following up. And then I'll also say, of the ones who do follow up, almost all of them, like 90+%, is phone call, phone call, phone call.
Right. Jim, can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Why do you think agents aren't following up? I think everyone tells them how important it is, or at least I hear it all the time, and I'm not even an agent. Why do you think agents aren't following up?
Agents aren't following up because it's not comfortable, until they do a whole lot of it. And that's the key to doing follow-up. Now, when you use all these methods, like I have 7 different methods up here, on 8 different methods on the screen. If you're doing only phone call follow-up, that's uncomfortable until you do a lot of it. Now, like I said, I did only phone call follow-up my first probably 10, 15 years. And even when you do phone call follow-up, once you start making good money and you're getting appointments and you're getting listings and they're selling, then you don't mind doing that phone call follow-up anymore.
Right.
But it's just uncomfortable, and that's why most agents won't do it.
Sure.
It's an uncomfortable thing.
Sure.
So what I'm getting at here with this slide is use a variety of methods. Yes. Drop letters, and I share some drop letters, what a drop letter is. If you can find that prospect on Facebook, and you're not going to find everybody, they have a very common name. You may not be able to decipher which one is the one that owns the house you're going after. LinkedIn, same thing. You're not going to find as many of them on LinkedIn, but if you can find them on Facebook or LinkedIn, and you're prospecting, sending them Facebook and LinkedIn messages, I can tell you nobody else is doing that. I've been doing that for the last 10 years, and it really works. Emails, if you have it, phone calls, obviously, the mailbox power, the custom cards we're talking about, and then door knocking. But I don't believe in door knocking until after
Hmm.
you have sent them or contacted them 2 or 3 other ways,
Gotcha.
and then text messaging.
Jim, real quick, what kind of frequency and over how much time do you recommend doing some of these follow-up techniques? Like, what is kind of your schedule and routine once you have that lead or once you have the information?
Well, today we're talking about expired.
Right.
So with an expired, it's going to be often. It's going to be every day or every other day.
Oh, wow. Pretty frequently then.
Yeah, very frequently, especially if it's a more recent expired. Now, if it's a for sale by owner, you want to follow up maybe at the most once a week
Okay.
because they're not as likely to make a quick decision.
Mm.
But yeah, with the expired, and I get that question all the time because
Yeah.
I've been coaching realtors last 3.5 years, and they say, "When do you stop?" You don't stop. You follow up until you either get the listing or they listed with somebody else, or they say, "Look, Jim, I don't want to hear from you anymore." And
Sure.
that actually rarely happens. But
Okay.
yeah, it's the agent who stays in touch who gets the listing. That's just the way it is.
I love it.
Yeah. So when we first started talking, I actually held up an envelope, but this is on your screen here. You can see the envelope of a house. And, like we discussed, if that's your house and it's an expired listing, didn't sell, and you're getting company information from other agents, and you get this envelope, you're going to open that envelope.
Jim, real quick, where do you get these photos? Are these from the MLS? Are these ones that you went out and took yourself? Where do you get such high quality, great photos of these homes?
Yeah, I have always gone out and taken my own photos.
Okay.
And agents will say, I can't tell you how often they'll say, "Oh my God, you actually drive out? What if it's 45 minutes away?" I'm not leaving my house, driving to get one photo, coming back, and then preparing this on the laptop and hitting send. And then
Right.
I'm lining these up, and I'm spending 2 or 3 hours a day out driving around the old expires that I've been working, the prospects that I might be dropping some more drop letters by, and I might have 5 or 6 new ones that I'm driving by and getting photos of.
Okay.
So yeah, you can get photos from Google Earth in today's world. You can get photos of a house from anywhere, from the text state. But if you go out and drive and take that photo, it's going to be a much better photo.
Have you ever had anyone catch you in the middle of taking a photo of their home?
Yeah, I have, and I'm so glad you asked that question because I coach agents now. I hear that all the time, and agents tell me, they'll say, "What do I do?" Or if it's the second or third session, they'll say they were driving by and somebody was either out getting their mail or they pulled in the driveway, and it's laughable because what we're trying to do is meet with these people, right?
Yeah, totally.
So if you're in front of their house and let's say they're walking out to the mailbox, you roll your window down and you say, "Hey, Mr. Stefan, is this your house?" And they usually say, "Yeah, can I help you?" And I say, "Yeah, I'm Jim McCord. Do you have just a minute?" And they'll almost always say, "Yeah." And then you get out and you have that drop packet with you that you were going to give them.
Okay.
And, "This is Jim McCord. I'm with Keller Williams. Your listing expired. I was just going to drop this off. It's some information about what I could do to get your home sold. And can I leave it with you?" And they're always going to say, "Yeah,"
Right.
And occasionally they're going to say, "Well, let's talk about it." And then you're going to actually have like a little mini listing appointment right in their yard. And sometimes they'll actually invite you in. So and so many agents, when they're driving by to drop that drop packet, they don't want to talk to them. So they leave and they drive back 10 or 15 minutes later.
Right.
No, if the owner's out, that's what you want to do.
So it's almost like door knocking, right? But a more well prepared, better executed door knock rather than just, "Hi, can I talk to you?" It's they catch you and then you got to engage.
Yeah, and early on, I won't mention the coaches. Back in '93 and '94 when I started, I paid a top coaching organization that told us to door knock, and I did, and it did work, and it does work today. But for me, I found that this works better because people don't, especially in today's world, people don't really want you knocking at their door. They really don't.
Yeah, a lot of no soliciting signs, that kind of stuff out there.
Exactly. Well, not even if they don't have the sign, they just don't want strangers knocking. Most people don't want strangers knocking at their door.
Sure.
So leaving something at their door in their mailbox is a whole lot less threatening.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, they got this envelope in the mail, and they get in their house and they open it up, and that's the front of the card. And occasionally I'll put something on the front of the card. Sometimes I won't. Sometimes I'll just leave it at the house. And then the panel on the right there, that's what you see. Those are the two inside panels. You know, their names, and then whatever your offer is, and then your information at the bottom.
Well, and it seems like you've got a very concise kind of pitch and offer there, right? Your home was listed over 3 years ago. It didn't sell then. The market has changed drastically. That's a very important point.
Right.
You have a very strong seller's market. What does this mean for you? Let's relist. I think that's a very concise, powerful message. People should pause it right here and write that down to use.
Yeah, and the key with this is, and I get it all the time also, they think that message is the exact same for every home.
Oh.
You know, you need to vary the message slightly, you know.
Okay.
And that's the same with drop letters, and it's the same with cards.
Nice.
This is a good message. It's one I would use, but I don't use that exact same message for everybody. But it does, you do want it to be short.
Gotcha.
And then on the back of the card, you design whatever you want on all four of these panels. You know, you got the front of the card, you got the two panels on the inside, and you have the back. And you design these in just a couple minutes on your cell phone, your laptop, or your desktop. And
I like the one you showed us at the beginning where it had your picture in a couple different spots. Like your picture was on the inside, it was also on the back. But I love the customization that you can do there.
Yep. And like I said, you can actually put wording on top of the photo as well, on the front of the card, on the inside, wherever you like. And then I mentioned drop letter being one of the methods of follow-up. I can't tell you how powerful these are. You know, you print out, and you'll notice there that's a brown craft envelope that I use, and I write the family's name on it. And if it has their first and last names, this I believe was an estate, which is why I put Kennedy family. But if it had like Tom and Jane Kennedy, I would put Tom and Jane Kennedy. And then I put confidential, and then I have a drop letter inside of that. Now you'll notice that is not a company envelope or a company folder, because a lot of people don't really like real estate, the real estate industry, or they don't have a positive, maybe they didn't have a good experience with it. And if they have a real estate folder and they have a negative impression of our industry, they may not even open it, might go right in the garbage. Where if they get this, they're absolutely going to open that and see what's inside.
It's also doesn't look like a traditional piece of mail, which is what I really like about it. Is there's not postage, there's not a stamp, there's not a return address. It almost looks like something from Amazon or something that they are expecting or would be excited for.
Right, and they know that there is no postage on it, so they know that it's
personally delivered.
Exactly, somebody actually delivered that. So this is an example of a drop letter. And the drop letter is like the message inside the card. You're going to have the owner's name obviously on it. The listing on your home expired. There's reasons listed homes don't sell. And then beyond that, this message needs to be changed for each individual expired home that you're working. Like I start out with this one, did you have great photos of your home? Well, if they did have great photos, I sure wouldn't be asking that question.
Right.
So you want to target that drop letter to fit that expired listing. Like this one, put the name of the family up front. Your luxury home needs targeted marketing and Ohio exposure. I'm in the Northern Kentucky market, and we're right across the river from Ohio. My last 7 years, I was licensed in Ohio also. And a $2 million home like this one needed to be, because that buyer may be coming from across the river, from Cincinnati, which is only 3 miles. And then I go on to say, you've received a few mailings, boxes, and drops from us over the past couple of weeks. So that's why, why I say this is targeted towards that homeowner. It's really important. Now, my first 10 or 15 years before I started doing this targeted drop letter, I would just have a stack of letters, almost like a resume of me in the car, and I would drop that off at for sale by owners and expires. And that worked too. Sure. But if you prepare these before you leave your house or your office, you prepare 5 of these, 10 of these, however many you're going to drop off. And you're going to drop these off at expired listings that you're working, that you've already sent stuff to, that maybe you've already called. And you're also going to be taking some photos of some new, and maybe not new expires, but expires that you want to send something to. They're old expires, but you want to get photos. And you're dropping a lot off. Don't think you're going out there just to drop one letter off or to take one photo, because that would be a huge waste of time.
Right.
And then compare the information that I'm talking about, the drop letters and the custom cards, to this is like conventional information that I've collected. This is all information that one particular homeowner received when their listing
I was
expired.
going to say that looks like my stack of mail every other week, because I
Yeah,
bought a home a couple of years ago, and so even though it's not expired information, it's like mortgage, refinance, all that kind of information, just a pile
yeah,
of junk mail.
exactly. These are, this is, and I use this same type of information my first 10 or 15 years. So I'm not saying it's bad information. I'm just saying this is what they're used to seeing.
Right, and you want to
And
stand out. So.
exactly. And you compare that, like that, those last 4 slides were all actual pieces that were received by this homeowner.
Right.
It was an expired listing. And I drove by and took a photo of their house. And this is what they received from me. A greeting card with a photo of their house, and I typed awesome farm on it because this was actually a farm. And this was sent with 2 brownies. When you use the company that I send these custom cards with, there's also gifts that you can customize and send. And then this was the inside of the card, their names.
Nice.
Your home's been on the market numerous times. With 46 acres of pond, barn, fields, woods, a nice home.
Beautiful.
Your home needs to be photographed with a drone. And it's amazing to me in today's world how many realtors are still not using drone photography and drone videography when it needs to be used.
Right, and I like the variation in photos here. Yeah. See?
And you got to compare. If you're that homeowner, you either get a card like that, you got that card, and you got all this information from everybody else. Who are you most likely to call? Not only did you get the card with a photo of your home, but it came with 2 delicious brownies in a box like that. Powerful stuff, really.
Very powerful. Oh, I love that. That's beautiful.
Well, see that I put this in the slides to show that is the first photo that I used of their home, as opposed to the first photo the previous agent used, which was not an aerial photo, and it was a really bad photo. Yeah. So when I went on that listing appointment, I did not have this photo yet, but I showed them other aerial photos of other listings that I did have and sell. Right. And let them know it's a shame that your previous agent didn't get aerial photos. So they did list with me that day, and this is the aerial. So this was the first photo that we used, which was very attractive. And then I talk, one of the methods of follow up is sending Facebook and LinkedIn messages.
Right.
And I can't tell you how powerful they are, because very few, all realtors are on Facebook, and a lot of them are on LinkedIn. And they're active on there, and a lot of them put their listings on there. They may have a business page, which is important, but what they're not doing is using Facebook Messenger and LinkedIn messages to prospect. And I do it, and I can tell you, it really works. It's phenomenal. And these were just some examples. And then one of the agents I coached, this is just a little testimonial from him. He's up in Virginia, and I always, as soon as they're working on an expired listing, they need to see if they can find that person on Facebook, on LinkedIn. And I tell them to Google that person's name in the city and see what other information they can find out about them. But occasionally when you do that, you're going to find out that, they may know somebody that you know very closely. And when it's a very close friend of yours, then you call them up and say, hey, you happen to know this person, I'm going after their listing. And that's what happened with this guy. And he got the listing simply because he called somebody who was a mutual friend of both of them.
Yeah. Jim, could you go back a couple to the linked or the Facebook messages there? What I want to point out to people, something I noticed here is, thanks for the marketing package in the house. Was it the one with the cookies, right? That definitely stood out, right? Like the quality photos, the unique package, the unique mailer, plus the cookies is what made you stand out. And that's fantastic.
Yeah, and this was actually a $2.5 million expired listing.
Oh, nailed it.
And so, when they get an envelope like I showed you with a photo of their house, that's powerful. Yeah. But if it's a listing you really want to get, or if it's over $500,000, certainly if it's over $1 million, I suggest you send a customized some customized gifts along with that, because then they're going to put that card in a box. And we all love getting boxes in the mail. And when you get a box, you're going to open that first.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Love it. Thank you.
Not a problem. So anyway, back to how to use, Mailbox Power. Mailbox Power is the company that I send these custom gifts with. And you do need an invitation code. Mine is simply my last name, McCord.
Okay, let's do that real quick. So it's mailboxpower.com. I'm going to put this on screen.
Mailboxpower.com/McCord, McCord.
Okay, wonderful. All right, we've got that up on screen. So yeah, tell us a little bit about this.
Yep. So, and I actually, I have to share this, and I hope you don't mind. I'm sure you won't.
Sure.
Most of my 28 years of selling, I did not believe in buying information. I did my own research. I got my own phone numbers. And that was really a very recent change, Andrew.
Yeah.
I heard, I listened to an interview you guys did with AJ Maida, one of the top EXP agents, not too long ago.
Yeah, we love AJ. That was just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, and I love AJ too. AJ uses Mailbox Power through me. He joined Mailbox Power, and he absolutely loves it.
Nice.
And I listened to that whole thing. I heard you guys interviewing him on Lab Coat Agents, and I listened to it. And he was talking about, using REDX, and yeah, you can find your own numbers, but why would you do that? And, it really made me realize, not only was I spending time searching for these numbers and these emails, and that take, because money is time.
Right.
But what I wasn't getting was like that geo farming stuff that you have,
yes,
which is absolutely mind-boggling. So, REDX, and I'm sure most of the listeners here realize that, but if you don't realize it, it's not just a place to get names and phone numbers. You get names, phone numbers, you get a lot of email addresses. And then if you pay for the geo farming, which I highly advise, my God, what you can do with that and that dialer system, I mean, it's mind-boggling. So that's what I wanted to throw in there, that, REDX is, whether you get the low-end version, the middle version, or the high version, I would get at least the middle, but it is so worth $150 or $200 a month, because it's going to save you countless hours. And if you get one more sale, just one more sale,
pays for itself.
That over a year,
yeah.
It's going to, double or triple what you paid for REDX. So anyway, that's my little plug for REDX.
Well, thank you, Jim. We appreciate that.
Yeah. And then you got to find, you actually asked me before, do I go out and take photos? And yeah, I do. And a lot of agents don't. A lot of agents are lazy, and you can get them from Google Earth, you can get them from a tax site. But I'm telling you, when you're sending stuff like this, the higher the quality the photo, the better you look. So go out and drive and get your own photos.
So we'll change bullet 2 there. Rather than find high quality photos, go take high quality photos.
Yep.
Love it.
And then you have with Mailbox Power, you actually have the option of setting up campaigns where you can set them up to receive like 4 cards. And it's not just that cards, they also have 4x6 postcards. 4x6 postcards are free, unlimited.
Oh,
you can send these unlimited number, pay postage only, 37 cents.
Cool.
But yeah, you can set up a campaign where, like, a for sale by owner or expired listing is going to get a card from you a week, and you just hit send, and that's done for you. You have those cards saved.
Right. I love that.
Yeah. And then the follow up is the key thing to in all sales. This really helps. Having the information, making the phone calls, that's huge. But I'm telling the agents who will listen to this, if you will do more than just phone call follow up, if you will use as many of those 8 methods, Facebook Messenger, LinkedIn Messenger, drop letters, Mailbox Power, cards, text messages, it just works, because a lot of people just hang up on us. And there's a whole lot. I can't tell you how many listings they got because they said, Jim, you're the only person that sent me a LinkedIn message. Now, there's not that many people using LinkedIn messages, but business people, corporate people, and young people who were looking for jobs, they're big on LinkedIn.
Right.
And somebody who's using LinkedIn on a regular basis, if they use that regularly and they get prospecting messages from a realtor, it works.
Right. So, well, hey, I'm glad you mentioned that postcard option, because I want to kind of integrate that with GeoLeads that you mentioned, right? Our circle prospecting software with GeoLeads, or with any of our lead types. you can export a list of leads as a CSV file and then upload that into something like Mailbox Power. So if you do want to do kind of a circle prospecting mail campaign, maybe something that is less targeted at old expireds, you can totally do that, to Jim's point, for almost free, right? Just for the cost of postage. Make them, design them however you want, but upload that geo leads or old expired data or for sale by owner data up into something like Mailbox Power to integrate that.
Well, you talk about the geo leads, let's say, and it doesn't even have to be you. Somebody in your office sold a listing for, let's say, $450,000.
Right.
You go into geo leads and you pull, like, you can pull a 1 mile, a 5 mile, 10 mile, whatever mile radius you want. And if you want, you can pull only the expires.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Because that's even more powerful.
Yes.
And, you pull the expires who are still not sold and didn't relist, and you send them either a postcard or a card and let them know that this house just recently sold. Your house expired 2, 3, 4 years, a few years ago, because you're going to send multiple. Your house is worth a lot more now than it did then. I'd love to meet with you and give you an idea what your house is worth. So, that's where that geo farming is just, it's huge.
Fantastic. Yeah. I love it. Well, Jim, do you have any more slides in your presentation here you want to share? Or are we good to wind down here? Let's see what we got.
Yeah, I'm happy. I actually forgot about these. We'll go through these quickly. This just gives you a few more ideas of what you can send. It's not just greeting cards that you can customize. There's different these are called celebration bars, and there's coffee mugs. This is another slide. And man, when you use an aerial photo, this was a big house up in Michigan that we listed.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Take a look at that. People, when they get these cards from us, and it doesn't matter if it's a multi-million-dollar home like this or if it's a $200,000 house, I can't tell you how many people actually frame these. Because, if it's
good,
yeah,
it's high quality, hard cardstock, right?
Yeah. Beautiful. And then it's not all about the house. These particular clients, they bought their original house from me and they live in it, but every year they buy 1 or 2 flip houses. So when they buy a flip house, I always send thank you cards through Mailbox Power. And if I send a card and gifts to somebody who bought a house that they're going to live in, I put the photo of that house on the front of the card.
Right.
Well, a flipper like this, I go to their Facebook page and I just get some photos of them and their family. And then I grabbed a few photos. I went down to the house, saw Mike tearing it up, put those on the inside of the card.
Very nice.
And then
I was going to ask Jim, it's, this is obviously great for kind of prospecting and trying to find business and generate leads, but it seems like this mail strategy is also, particularly through Mailbox Power, is very powerful for nurturing your sphere of influence and maintaining and kind of nurturing those relationships.
Oh, exactly. Thank you gifts. These clients got that, this thank you card. And then they got these 2 coffee mugs with 4 brownies, all photos of them and their family on it. That's so much more powerful than sending a coffee mug with Keller Williams or Remax or EXP or Coldwell Banker.
Again, you're making it about them, something for them, and not just about yourself. I love it.
Yeah, Cindy Shutterly is actually the #1 agent in our market, all companies, all agents. And she's my top user at Mailbox Power. One of the things, and she allows me to share this or I wouldn't do it, she uses Mailbox Power in a lot of ways, but everybody Cindy has worked with in the last 15 years automatically gets on their birthday or right around their birthday, a birthday card and a $5 Starbucks gift card every year, thanking them for doing business with her. And Cindy does not have to print that card or even design that card. It's done through a campaign. The company has campaigns that you can use, birthday campaign, where you put their name, their address, their birthday, and the card that you save and whatever gift, if you want to include a gift. And automatically, 7 days before each person's birthday, it generates that card and that gift.
Wonderful.
Yep.
And then this is some information we already covered. So we'll wrap up here. Well, Jim, this has been so amazing. Thank you so much for sharing all this valuable information with our audience. We covered sphere of influence. We covered the importance of follow-up. And I think what's really great about this and these mailers is that it's a new, unique approach to your traditional real estate mail campaign to help you stand out as an agent, to help you provide your value, show that you're, that you care enough to put this extra effort. And what I love about this is it seems like it is automated and simple enough to design and create these campaigns, but still provides a tremendous amount of value and care for these people you're sending it to.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. But keep in mind that the purpose, that the reason we did this particular broadcast is in 2021, based on what's gone on in the last year and a half, in this crazy seller's market we're in, where there's such a high demand and there's just no inventory. That's why you go back. And that's the key thing to this whole podcast.
Yes.
Go back 2, 3, 4, 5 years.
Right.
Because those houses now are probably worth what they were asking or more. And it didn't sell 2 or 3 years ago. And very few agents are. So that is an untapped market that you will do dynamite with if you go after them. And then and the rest of it is how to go after them differently. But the gist of this podcast was go after not yesterday's expires, because probably there's a reason. There is a reason. If they're expiring in this market, you probably don't even want it.
Exactly.
That's why you go back 2, 3, 4.
And I'll add to that, Jim, is that with an expired listing, a lot of them, didn't relist because they lost faith in real estate agent, right? Back to your point of kind of the negative reputation in some markets of real estate agents. When you come in and you provide all this value, you help them relist, resell their home, you're also this beacon of hope and this great referral. You maintain that relationship, and that is years of repeat and referral business for you as well. So
absolutely.
Fantastic.
I mean, I can't tell you, they are thrilled to find out. Let's say their house expired 3 years ago and they were asking $330,000. When you can go in and say, well, now we can list your house higher than that.
Yes.
We real estate agents know that. And sellers are watching the news. They realize the market's changed. They realize, but they have no idea how much it's changed. The buyers out there who are working with agents trying to get a house on, they realize how much the market's changed.
Yep.
But the sellers from 2, 3, 4 years ago, they're watching this and just blowing by them. But man, if you're the agent that lets them know what their house is worth now, you're going to get a listing, and we know how quick it's going to sell in today's market.
Fantastic. I love it. Well, just to give you one more shout out and plug here, Jim, for anyone who is interested in Mailbox Power to create these powerful, unique mailers to send to old expireds or whomever, go to mailboxpower.com/McCord to help Jim out here and sign up with his discount. Is that right?
Yeah. And actually, if you'll connect with me on Facebook or LinkedIn, I will send anybody who wants, I'll send you a physical copy of my book at no cost.
Wonderful. And is there an email address? Maybe they can get a hold of you at as well?
Absolutely. jmccordrealtor@gmail.com. jmccordrealtor@gmail.com.
Gmail.com. I'm going to put that up on screen real quick.
Yep. Or they can send me a Facebook message. And I also have over 200 training videos on YouTube. So feel free to go to my Jim McCord on YouTube and subscribe.
I love it. Well, thank you again, Jim. This is so amazing. I'm gonna rewatch this podcast just to take some of this information and help other agents. We really appreciate everything you shared with us today. To our audience who joined us, thank you for participating. Thank you for being here and watching. Again, this is so much great information, a great way for you to stand out. If you haven't subscribed to the podcast already, you can do that at theredx.com/podcast. You can find us on YouTube as well. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, wherever you like to listen. Check out our blog, check out our newsletter, subscribe to those, and you'll get updates for shows and blogs like the show we did with Jim today. And we will see you all next time. Thanks again, Jim.
Thanks, Andrew.